Welcome to A Cup of Freedom Sports. My name is Jeric, and we're going to have a new co-host joining us today shortly. His name is John Lasavage. He was a longtime coach at Carbondale High School. I think it was around 25, 28 years. He was the head coach there, and he retired in 2008. He was a teacher at Carbondale. He played Division I football in the 1970s for West Virginia, and he was like a intern under the legendary future Hall of Fame coach Nick Saban. So John will be part of our podcast for football season. I think for the next 5 weeks, it'll be part of a podcast after District 2 playoffs is over. It'll just be me. But yeah, we're excited to have this new co-host. And then after we have John on, and then I'll be doing the stats and talking about the upcoming weekend's games and my predictions. So, yeah, let's bring John on. Here he is, John Lasavage. John, thank you for the interest in joining our podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure, actually, Jeric. It was a surprise being so late in the season, but I'm willing to, participate and do the job that you're asking me to do.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely appreciate it with your knowledge in football, your history in football, and long-time coach with Carbondale. And yeah, I was looking back. I mean, it's pretty cool. You won the District 2 championship. Was it 2001 over?
Yes, it was over Lackawanna Trail. I think it was 2001. We were runners up in No, I think it was 2001. We were runners up in 2000. Or either 1999 we were runners up.
2001 runner up, 2002 champion.
Okay, 2002 champions and runner up in 2021.
Wow,
I really didn't look at it, but it's within the mirrors.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, And was Josh? When did Josh play?
2000.
Josh played as a senior in the district championship game in 2001.
I graduated in 01, so it was the 2000 season. I'm out of here.
Well, There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good question.
Yeah, that is. Thank you. So John, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, actually, I started playing football in second grade, and the guy's name was Jack Smith. He got me participating in football, and it was called the Carbondale Blues. Then I moved on in, say, seventh grade. It became what was called the Unikins, which later became the Blitz. So I started playing in second grade right up into high school. And I was fortunate enough to have a coach that played in the Big Ten. His name was Jim Miller. Unfortunately, he passed away, but he was one of my, I'd have to say, individuals that actually opened my eyes to playing football. So in high school, I was probably recognized as a very good hitter and a running back. And as a senior, I was recruited by West Virginia University, head coach Bobby Bowden, and Syracuse University, which at the time I can't tell you his head coach, and Ole Miss University. It was one of the three. Well, it came down to Coach Bowden having John Denver fly over Carbondale with country roads, and I ended up becoming a Mountaineer. And spent from 1974 to 1979 with being redshirted 1 year. I started in the secondary as a corner in 1976 under Jim Bates. And my junior and senior year, I played under Nick Saban. And later became a grad assistant in 79 and made a decision to come back to Carbondale with a teaching position of physical education, health education, and driver's education. and became the high school football coach.
Wow, I think it's pretty good resume there.
Well, I had a good experience as far as it goes in college.
Yep.
We played independent football, and independent football meant that you played everybody in all the conferences. Other words, one week we play Colorado, then we come back and play Syracuse, and then we come back and play Pittsburgh, and the following week Penn State, and then come back up and play Boston College, and then fly down and play the University of California Golden Bears, then fly down to Tulane the next week, and then come back to Morgantown and have Pitt home. So it was a very competitive time in my life.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Now, how did you get interested in playing football?
Well, like I said, I was in
Yeah,
second grade. The first coach I was under was Jack
yeah.
Smith, and it was the Carbondale Blues. And from there, I played up till about seventh grade. And at that time, it became the Unicans. And a coach by the name of Fran Cerise and Toby Mancuso ran the program. And at that time, I wasn't running the football, I was just playing defense and was probably known as being a very good defensive player. When I got to high school, I was given the opportunity to touch the pigskin, and I think I broke just about every rushing record
Oh,
in the
wow.
high school.
Wow. Were you?
I'm not
Yeah,
saying that to be. I'm just saying that I was fortunate enough to
yeah.
carry the football. Probably in high school, I'd say at least 325 times.
Oh, wow. Were you? Would you think you were a better running back or cornerback?
Well, I'd have to say the hardest position to play in football is a cornerback
Yeah.
because you are going backwards. And one second, my dog see my wife is pulling up, so my dogs are going to start barking naturally. To have a team that's willing to be dedicated in what they're doing and their blocking assignments. If you hit the hole and you have the speed, which I had, and you're capable of reading the openings, away you go as a running back. You got to break tackles and use your forearm and straight arm, and you're always looking for the end zone as a running back. You're
Now,
spinning, you're turning, you're pushing, and you're going, and you're shoving, and you're just getting there. But you get beat up doing it.
yeah.
But at the same time, when you're playing defense, which I was known as a defensive player, you get to lay the old Rydell on some people that, try to run the football at you. So it's a very competitive game. It's a
Were
game
you?
of chess.
Was anybody trying to recruit you to be a running back for college?
Well, actually, when I was redshirted at West Virginia, they moved me to tailback in the veer. And I think I had something like 177 carries during spring ball. Football's changed a lot. Our spring ball at the time went from March 3rd to Memorial Weekend with with three spring games. We had a spring game in Morgantown, West Virginia. That meant the number one offense went against the number two defense.
Hmm.
And that gave me an opportunity to run the football. Wait, my wife has the dogs barking here, and I'm live on a camera. Are we ready?
Yep.
Yeah, in high school, I had the opportunity and a coach that moved me to tailback, and I got the opportunity to carry the pigskin each game, probably 30, 35 to 55 times a game, and played defense. But West Virginia University, where I signed, actually recruited me as a weak side corner in a 52. And to a tight end, it's like an outside linebacker. Unless they split you out, then you become a corner, and then you got to go into all your coverages and checking off your coverages. It all depends on the formation that they come out and you have to face.
Yeah. I have one more question for you for this week. In the next week, you'll be joining us for our other podcast, and maybe talk about more exciting stuff. So, when did you realize you wanted to become a football coach. And my understanding is you were an intern under Nick Saban for what? Talk
That's
about that.
correct.
Talk about that.
When I became a senior, I was told that I was probably going to go to the big show. I had the opportunity my junior and senior year to play. Tommy Primer went to the Atlanta Falcons as a safety. Fulton Walker, the other corner, went to the Miami Dolphins. Jerry Holmes went to Green Bay, and they graduated as juniors. I came back, and I was the only corner that returned from 76. No, from 77. So in 1978, I was the only defensive back left. And it came down to where Cleveland gave me an opportunity to play as in their practice squad with a contract. And fortunately, it just didn't work out. I don't know why. They took somebody from Minnesota. The draft was different. But ended up coming back to Carbondale. And the second opportunity actually came up when they started the first World Football League. Joe Pendry from the Pittsburgh Marauders offered me a very decent contract, but life led me into a car accident, and I ended up becoming a high school teacher and head football coach at Carbondale area. I think it was 1983. 1980, I was assistant under Jim Miller. 1981, I think it was Jim Miller, and 1 year under Leo Scarupa. And I think I became a head football coach for Carbondale in 83 till
Wow.
2009.
And you retired. Was it 2009 you retired?
Well, I actually, it was over a very bad situation that
Yeah.
I really don't want to talk about.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
And, but down the road, I think we should talk about it. But right now, my
Yeah.
interest in football and how I became a
Yeah.
coach was because the opportunity came up
Yeah.
and because of what happened in life.
Yep.
That I ended up being a teacher at Carbondale area and becoming the head football coach.
Well, I want to share this with you, which you probably never knew. Someone else has a similar story, kind of like you. Delaware Valley's head coach, Keith Osmer, played for
Oh,
Penn
I know him
State.
very good.
Yeah.
We actually had to play Delaware Valley as when I was a head coach. We played Delaware Valley, and actually Keith in the state was ranked third, and we had him up in Carbondale,
Yeah.
and we went into 4 overtimes when they started the overtimes.
Wow. Wow.
But what happened is I lost one of my offensive
Yeah.
guards. He broke his tibia and fibia in one
Yeah.
of the overtimes, the last one.
Wow.
But it was a great game. But
Yeah.
I do know Keith. I know him personally. Very good.
Yeah. Yes. And when he played for Penn State, he was sharing with me, and I think it was in July when we were up there, and he said he had a chance to go pro, and they were like, "We're gonna sign you as tight end," and he just said, "Nah." He didn't want to. He said he just went Delaware Valley and opening a teacher or something opened up, and this opened up for him, and he's up there for how long? Like was it
Oh
25 years?
yeah,
So
he's developed a fantastic program.
yeah.
He knows to play up. He plays a very
Hmm.
competitive schedule. So when he does get into playoffs, his kids are acclimated to the
Hmm.
type of football that they have to play being a 5A school.
Very true.
And
Yep.
we were in a very similar situation. My whole coaching tenure at Carbondale, we always played up.
Hmm.
We always, very rarely did we play in our conference, except for the fact that Lackawanna Trail always had a
Hmm.
very, very, very dedicated program, great
Hmm.
coaching staff in the Wasilcheks, and Old Forge with D'Armalays, and I think the last coach that I coached against was the gentleman that's still there right now. I think his name is
Mike Schuback,
yeah, Mike Schuback.
great
Yes, I
coach.
recall Mike. He's very good coach, very
Hmm.
good coach, and very competitive program for a
Oh
Class
yeah.
A school.
Yeah, I was shocked. Lackawanna Trail played Mid Valley, and I went through the game. I covered the game at Mid Valley like 2 weeks before or something. They blew out Berwick, and I'm like, I picked Mid Valley to win, and Lackawanna Trail won. I was like shocked because Mid Valley's 3A again, and Trail's 1A, and Trail lost. I think like 4 or 5 players from last year, starters, and yeah, it was like, yeah, they're pretty hot, and they shut out Berwick. Berwick's triple A, 3A now. They
Yeah,
shut
well,
him out 35-0.
yeah, I really, like I said, Jared, I haven't really been paying attention to
Yeah.
football since, I left it. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as my coaching and my philosophy goes, I think, you know, there's a lot to it as
Mm-hmm.
far as developing a program first. Once again, you got to get the
Mm-hmm.
administration. First of all, you have to get a board that's going to, put
Yeah.
you in that position.
Yep.
And then you got to get an administration
Mm-hmm.
that's going to back the program.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get to that point, you have to actually get the kids
Mm-hmm.
and get them believing in what you're trying to accomplish. And
Mm-hmm.
as a coach, you're always out there trying to get them to sacrifice. They got to be dedicated, their
Mm-hmm.
devotion. They got to always get opportunity. Never blame the team for
Mm-hmm.
doing something. You're actually in a position that when you win, the
Mm-hmm.
ball players win. When you lose, the coach loses.
Mm-hmm.
Because my outlook on it is repetition creates retention. So
Mm-hmm.
if you get the kids ready in a game, for a game, and they go out there and execute and do
Mm-hmm.
what you coached them to do, because you're actually a teacher on the field at the
Yep.
same time you're teaching in school. You're
Mm-hmm.
actually teaching something that's very hard, because you're teaching your staff how to actually handle themselves body English wise, how the sidelines are going to be. You're looking for commitment out of the players. You're
Mm-hmm.
looking for young kids to develop as they're going. At the same time, you're trying to get the kids to be aggressive on the field, but then carry themselves like gentlemen off the field and not have that carry on into their social life. Um, you're looking for agility. You're installing. Just as a coach, you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
reaction, their pursuit, their angle. If they're showing a positive attitude all the time, which comes from actually
Mm-hmm.
knowing their body English,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not as a coach if they're out there playing
Yeah.
just by the way they're carrying themselves.
True.
So it's if you're doing it at practice, and I was the type of coach that we practiced till dark, no matter what time of year it was. We'd get out of school at 3 if it was in August, and we'd go to dark. If it was late November, we'd get on the field and we'd go to dark. Eventually, we got lights and we got an opportunity to go longer. But there's a lot of things that you have to have
Mm-hmm.
take place. Like I said, you have to have a school board that wants you. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have the administration that's backing you, a faculty at the same time that's telling the kids that, it's good to be
Mm-hmm.
playing. So then you go out there as a coach and you start off initially with the fundamentals. And
Mm-hmm.
from fundamentals, you start developing unity and you start developing, pride in
Mm-hmm.
playing. And from the fundamentals, you look and see how physical the kid is and whether or not he's ready to play offense or he's ready to play defense. And then the biggest thing is finding whether or not he's suited for a position. You could get a kid that's 140 pounds that's actually 6 foot playing safety and actually, set your whole defense up so that kid could wander back there and actually be a center fielder.
Wow.
Or you could take a safety that is 5'11", 200 pounds, and use them as a linebacker by setting up your different schemes to make sure that we call it fires. For a corner, it's a weak C, strong C, a strong safety, a thunder if we're sending a safety at the time I was coaching. So there's a lot of things that go into it, whether or not they can react quick, whether or not they're following and believing in what you're trying to get across to them. So it's not an easy job.
Hmm.
Like I said, the kids win, and when you lose, the coaches lose, or the coach loses. The players never, ever, ever lose a football game
Hmm.
and win every single one.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for coming on. And you're going to be back here next week again. I'm excited to
Oh, I'm
have you
looking
back.
forward to it. I actually had fun doing it, Jeric. If that's what we're going over, and
Yeah.
hopefully I talked a little bit about my history and
Yep.
how I developed an interest in the game. I was just fortunate enough to have a high school coach by the name of Jim Miller and some dedicated high school ball players like Joe Vidala, Charlie Bill.
Hmm.
I mean, these kids, the guys I played with, they loved the game. And I
And
was
you're.
fortunate to be a coach. And through the years, I could just tell you, I probably had 1,000 different
Mhm.
nicknames, from Heart Attack to Ice Cube to you know Tip Head to. It just motivated the kid to play a little
Yeah.
bit harder for you, and you
Hmm.
developed a relationship, and they believed in you. And once you get a kid believing
Hmm.
in what you're trying to accomplish, and if you have, what, once again, the school board, the
Hmm.
administrators, and the faculty backing you, I think it's pretty easy. You go up
Yeah.
there, you smile, you
Yep.
high five kids, and you carry yourself with pride, and you get them carrying themselves with pride, and you start developing what is called a program.
Yep. Yeah. So thank you for number one. Thank you for willing to be a co-host with me, and we're gonna be back next week, obviously, as a co-host. So thank you. I just
Well,
wanted everyone to get to know you a little bit. So
yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Jeric. It was actually enjoyable. It
good.
was the first time, actually. I'll tell you a story before
All
I
right.
go. One
Yep.
thing you wanted the story.
Yep.
It, it was my senior year at West Virginia, and Coach Saban sent me down to, it was called, let me think, I want to make sure the type of football, but it was for younger kids. If you could help me out, geez, at the time it wasn't blitz or anything else. It was a foundational football, but I just thought it was. I'm trying to think of the name, and it's anyway. I'm
Yeah.
thinking I'm going. I'm going down, and we're
Yeah.
traveling on 70, going down
Yep.
towards Charleston,
Hmm.
and at the same time, Coach Saban gave me his material that he had to speak at a banquet at. So I memorized the whole thing, and it was youth football, and I'm thinking it's only going to be 30, 40 people with their kids, and a little family, this and that. Well, I get there, and the parking lot's the size of like 7 airports, and the place is like a big building, an army, you know what would you call it, a rec building. And I go in there, and there's like 3,000 people.
Wow.
I ended I ended up trying to tell the whole thing that I memorized, and it wasn't actually mine, it was Coach Saban's. But it got to the back end of it, and the punchline was that the kicker actually was supposed to fake it and go for two and win the game, but instead he went and kicked it. Well, I stood there and completely forgot it, and just looked over all the people and went into total shock. So, in relationship to what I'm doing right now with you, I could say that was my first experience, and I think this one went a little bit smoother, to
Good.
be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll see you next week, John, and thank you.
Thank you,
Yep.
Jeric. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. Thank
Great
you.
opportunity.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too now.
Bye. Yeah. So that was our new co-host, John Lasavage. And now I'm going to go into and talk about the upcoming games this coming weekend. But first, let's bring on Sara Renee X to share a top 7 Lackawanna Football Conference countdown for week.
Welcome to the Hail Mary Show. My name is Sara Renee X, here to give you the top 7 countdown for the Lackawanna Football Conference here on Agape Freedom Podcast for Sports. Starting in at number 7, we have Susquehanna. At 6, Mid-Valley. Number 5, Lackawanna Trail. Number 4, Valley View. Number 3, Riverside. Number 2, Scranton Prep. And predicted to win, coming in at number 1, we have Western Wayne. I'm going to hand you guys on over to Jeric. Have a great one.
So let's get started here. We got Abington Heights at Scranton Prep. Now, Abington's rush offense, 741. Their Abington's rush yards per game, 123.5. Abington's pass offense, 939. Abington's pass yards per game offense, 156.5. Abington's scored points per game, 20.1. Abington's rush defense, 10-28. They've given up 171 yards per game. Their pass defense, total yards is 625 they've given up. And they average, their pass defense is giving up around 104.1 yards passing. Now, how much points they're giving up per game, their defense? 26.1. Now we're on to Scranton Prep. Scranton Prep rush offense, they had a total of 1,415 yards they rushed this year. Scranton Prep's been averaging about 235.8 yards per game rushing. Scranton Prep's pass offense, they had a total of 793 yards this season. Scranton Prep has been averaging 127 yards passing per game. Scranton Prep scored and averages around 32.8 points per game. Scranton Prep's rush defense, they're giving up 574 yards, and they're giving up on an average of 95 yards rushing per game. Their pass defense, they're giving up 802 yards total this year. And they're giving up 133.6 yards per game passing. And their defense is giving up a total of 16.6 points per game. Now, I'm looking at this. Scranton Prep is a very good team. Abington is 3-3 currently this year. And Scranton Prep is 5-1. Prep's only loss is to a team that played out of state. Prep is very dominant. They have a good offense, a good defense. And just for this week, I'm not gonna go over this players' stats or nothing like that. Come next week, we're gonna have Kylie joining us, and she'll be doing the stats and stuff as I talk about the upcoming game, the upcoming weekend. So I'm going to go and tell you my prediction. I picked Scranton Prep to win this game. Scranton Prep 40 and Abington Heights 15. And I picked Scranton Prep to win by 25. Our next game is Valley View at North Pocono. The game we played up at North Pocono Stadium. Valley View is 5-1. Their only loss was to the top team, one of the top teams, Scranton Prep. Scranton Prep, they lost 33-0 to Scranton Prep in week 1. And North Pocono is 3-3. North Pocono's rush offense. North Pocono has a total of 1,206 yards rushing this season. North Pocono has been averaging around 201 yards rushing per game. North Pocono has 396 yards passing this season. That's not too good. North Pocono has been averaging around 66 yards passing per game. North Pocono has scored by a total of 137 points this year. They are averaging 22.8 points per game. North Pocono's rush defense, they've given up 504 total yards this season rushing. And they're giving up on an average of 84 yards rushing per game. Their pass defense, they've given up a total of 725 yards passing this season. And they're giving up around an average of 120 yards passing per game. North Pocono's defense is giving up a total of 114 points this season. And they're giving up on an average of 22 point. This can't be a. Hold on. North Pocono's defense is giving up a total about 114 yards. No, excuse me. North Pocono's defense is giving up 114 points this season, and they're giving up an average of 19 points per game. But I'm going with Valley View for this game. Valley View's been playing well. Valley View's on a 5-game win streak. Their defense is excellent. They have a little bit of a passing game, and they have a good running game. Preston Reed has been a beast. Nick Karowski's been a beast. So I'm going with Valley View. Valley View 27, North Pocono 13. And I picked Valley View to win by 14. Our next game is going to be Western Wayne at West Scranton. So Western Wayne at West Scranton. The Western Wayne is our number 1 team in the top 7 countdown. They have been dominating teams. They have a good running game. They have a very good running back, and they definitely have probably one of the top rushing offenses in the league. And they have a very good defense. West Scranton has struggled this year. They're 0-6, so let's go over the stats. Western Wayne rush offense. Western Wayne has a total of 1,419 yards rushing this season, their team. Western Wayne has been averaging 236 yards per game. That's pretty impressive. Western Wayne's pass offense. Western Wayne has 354 yards passing this season, and they're averaging around 59 yards passing per game. Western Wayne has scored a total of 226 points this season, and Western Wayne is averaging 37.6 points per game. Western Wayne's rush defense. Western Wayne is giving up a total of 970 yards rushing per game. Western Wayne's has been giving up an average of 163 yards rushing per game. Western Wayne's pass defense. Western Wayne is giving up 590 yards total this season, passing. Now, Western Wayne's defense is giving up a total of 78 points this season, which averages about 13 points per game. That's pretty impressive. Now on to West Scranton. West Scranton's rush offense. West Scranton has a total of 590 yards rushing this season. West Scranton has been averaging 98.3 yards rushing per game. West Scranton's pass offense. West Scranton has a total of 535 yards passing this season. West Scranton is averaging around 87 yards passing per game. West Scranton has scored a total of 48 points this season, and they're averaging about 8 points per game. Their rush defense, they have given up 969 yards this season. West Scranton is giving up an average of 161 yards rushing per game. West Scranton's pass defense, they're giving up 911 total yards this season passing. West Scranton's is giving up an average of 151 yards, 0.8 passing per game. West Scranton's defense is giving up a total of 167 points this season, an average of 27.8 points per game. Well, with this one, I'm going with Western Wayne Wildcats 42, West Scranton 8, and I pick Western Wayne to win by 34. Next up, we have Homestead Hornets at the Lakeland Chiefs. Homestead is 2-4. They started out the season 2-0. They're on a 4-game losing streak. Lakeland is 2-4. Same applies to them. They started out the season 2-0. Wins against Carbondale, wins against Holy Cross. They're on a 4-game losing streak. They played a good, tough game against a good, pretty decent Dunmore team. Dunmore struggled this year, but they're Dunmore. They ended up getting lucky and scoring a long touchdown run, but close to 3 minutes left in the game, Dunmore did, and they ended up winning 20-14. So, how about the Homestead rush offense? Homestead rushing game, they have 1,226 yards rushing this season. That's an average of 245 yards rushing per game. Homestead's pass offense, 653 yards passing on the season. Homestead is averaging about 108 yards passing per game. Homestead has scored a total of 136 points this season and averaging 22.6 points per game. Homestead's rush defense, they're giving up 1,222 yards. That's a lot. And they're giving up an average on 203 yards per game. Their pass defense, they're giving up 840 yards. That's a decent amount as well this season. And they're giving up an average of 140 yards passing per game. Now the Lakeland Chiefs. Lakeland has 707 yards rushing this season as a team, and they're averaging about 117 yards rushing per game. Lakeland's pass offense, they have total of 549 yards passing this season as a team. Lakeland is averaging 91 yards passing per game. They have scored a total of 150 yards. No, excuse me. They've scored a total of 150 points this season. Lakeland has. And they're averaging about 25 points per game. Lakeland's rush defense, 1,193 yards they're giving up this season. They're giving up an average of 198 yards rushing per game. Their pass defense, they're giving up 402 yards passing total this year. And they're giving up an average of 67 yards passing per game. Lakeland's defense, they've given up a total of 154 points this season. So 154 points their defense has given up. That's an average of about 25.6 points per game. But with this one, Lakeland, if they play their best game and they stay healthy during the game, they might have a chance to win this one. It's not out of reach for them, but it's they're going to have to play their best game. But with that said, I'm going with the Honesdale Hornets. Honesdale 28, Lakeland 20, and Honesdale to win by 8. Next game we got this upcoming weekend is the 2-4 Dunmore Bucks. Dunmore is on a 2-game winning streak. And then we have the 5-1 Mid-Valley Spartans. Mid-Valley's only loss is to Lackawanna Trail, which is a 1A school. Mid-Valley is they're a solid team. They're a very good team. Dunmore is starting to find themselves. So this game was difficult to kind of pick. So Dunmore's rush offense, they have a total of 1,254 yards rushing total this season. Dunmore is averaging about 209 yards rushing per game. Dunmore's pass offense is they only have 308 yards passing this season. And Dunmore is averaging 51.3 yards passing per game. Dunmore has scored a total of 101 points this season, and they're averaging about 16.8 points per game. Dunmore's rush defense, 1,105 yards they've given up this season rushing. And that's an average of 184 yards rushing per game. Dunmore is giving up their defense. Their pass defense is giving up 420 yards, and that's an average of 70 yards per game. So, how about Mid-Valley? Mid-Valley's rush offense, they have a total of 1,273 yards rushing on this season. Mid-Valley's rush offense, well, Mid-Valley's has been averaging 212 yards rushing per game. Mid-Valley pass offense, they've been at a total of 684 yards passing on this season. That's an average of 114 yards passing per game. Mid-Valley has scored a total of 178 points this year, and that's an average of 29.6 points per game. Mid-Valley's rush defense, they're giving up a total of 500 yards. That's pretty solid. They're averaging 83.3 yards rushing per game. That's pretty solid. And their pass defense, they're giving up a total of 575 yards total this season. That's an average of 95.8 yards passing per game they have given up. The Mid-Valley Spartans has given up a total of 71 points this season. That's an average of 11.8 points per season. Per game, So, yeah, that's true. So next up is Carbondale area, who's 4-1. At Lackawanna Trail, who's 5-1. Lackawanna Trail's only loss was to a very good Western Wayne team. Carbondale area has a total of 1,226 yards rushing this season as a team, and that's an average of 204.3 yards rushing per game, which is pretty good. Carbondale's pass offense, they have a total of 330 yards passing on the season. That's about 55 yards passing per game. Carbondale area scored a total of 166 points this season. That's an average of 27.6 points per game. Carbondale's rush defense, they have given up 543 yards rushing this year. And that's an average of 90.5 yards rushing per game their defense is giving up. Pass defense, 272 yards passing they have given up. That's an average of 45.3 yards passing per game. Carbondale area, is pretty decent this year. The program's starting to build up. But to play against Lackawanna Trail they're a dominant team. But I think Carbondale's going to play them a little bit better than some people might think. But anyhow, let's go to Lackawanna Trail stats. Lackawanna Trail's rush offense, 1,480 yards, and I think that's a lead best. That's the most yards rushing in the Lackawanna Conference this season right now as a team. That's an average of 246 yards rushing per game. Their pass offense, Lackawanna Trail has a total of 231 yards passing this season. They're not much of a passing team. Lackawanna Trail has an average of 38 yards passing per game. Lackawanna Trail scored 185 points this season, and that's an average of 30.8 points per game. Their rush defense is 687 yards rushing they're giving up this season. That's 114 yards rushing per game. Their pass defense, they're giving up 473 yards passing this season, an average of 78.8 yards passing per game. And their defense is only giving up 69 points this year, and that's an average of 11.5 points per game. But with that said, I'm going with Lackawanna Trail. Lackawanna Trail 35. Area 24. And I picked Lackawanna Trail to win by 11. I think Connor might be able to hang with Lackawanna Trail a little bit. Now, that's just what I think. I could be wrong, but let's see what happens. I don't want to overlook Carbondale too much. They've been playing some teams tough. So that's my pick. We're on to Riverside at Holy Cross. We're on to, like I said, Riverside at Holy Cross. I'm not going to do stats for this one, but I'm just going to tell you my prediction. I pick Riverside to win this game. Riverside 45, Holy Cross 12. And I pick Riverside to win by 33 points. And we are on to our last game this coming weekend. We have Old Forge Blue Devils at the Susquehanna Sabres. Susquehanna's been playing pretty tough football. They're a pretty solid team. Susquehanna is a kind of solid team. Susquehanna is 4-2, or 3-3. Let's go over the stats. Old Forge rush offense. They have a total of 683 yards rushing this season. Old Forge is averaging 113 yards rushing per game. Old Forge pass offense, They have a total of 912 yards passing this season. That's an average of 152 yards passing per game. Old Forge has scored a total of 161 points this season. That's an average of 26.8 points per game. The rush defense, Old Forge rush defense, they have given up a total of 1,494 yards this season. They're struggling right there. And Susquehanna, their strong point is rushing the ball. So I think Old Forge is going to struggle against Susquehanna. And that's an average of 249 yards they've given up per game this season. The pass defense, 473 yards they're giving up. That's an average of 78.8 yards per game. Their defense is giving up 220 points this season. That's an average of 36.6 points per game. Now, Susquehanna's rush offense, under Susquehanna, 1,422 yards. So they could run the ball. They have, the Weston, the quarterback, and, pretty decent running back. Susquehanna is a good run game. Susquehanna is averaging 237 yards rushing per game. Susquehanna's pass offense, they have a total of 481 yards passing on this season. That's an average of 80.1 yards passing per game. Susquehanna scored a total of 163 yards. No, excuse me. They scored a total of 163 points this season, and that is averaging 27.1 points per game. Susquehanna's rush defense, they're giving up 611 yards. So that's pretty good. It really is. And that's about 101.8 yards per game. Their pass defense, 535 yards this season they're giving up, and that's an average of 89.1 yards per game. They're giving up a total of 123 points this season, 20.5 points per game. They have Susquehanna as a solid defense, solid rush defense, and solid pass defense. I think. Actually, they do. They played Riverside, I think, pretty good last week. They did lose to Riverside, but Riverside's a very, very good team. And they came back a little bit in the second half, Susquehanna did. So, I'm going with Susquehanna to win this one. I say Susquehanna 27, Old Forge 13, and I pick Susquehanna to win by 14. So let's see what happens. I really think Susquehanna could win this one. But before we get going, let's bring on Sara to go over the top 7 Lackawanna Conference teams.
Welcome to the Hail Mary Show. My name is Sara X, here to give you the top 7 countdown for the Lackawanna Football Conference here on Agape Freedom Podcast for Sports. Starting in at number 7, we have Susquehanna. At 6, Mid-Valley. Number 5, Lackawanna Trail. Number 4, Valley View. Number 3, Riverside. Number 2, Scranton Prep. And predicted to win, coming in at number 1, we have Western Wayne. I'm going to
Thank you, Sara. That completes our Week 7 Hail Mary show. Wow, We've already gone through 6 weeks. 7, 8, 9. So, wow. Playoffs are going to be around the corner before we know it. Wow. Can't believe it. But, yeah. I'm so glad we have a new co-host now, John Lasavage. He'll be back with us next week, and we're going to talk about football again. But my name is Jeric Canning. This is Agape Freedom Sports. We love sports. All my co-hosts love sports, and we're excited to bring more media and sports coverage to the Lackawanna Conference. So we're thrilled to be able to do that. But until next week, have a good night. And if you like our content, make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel.